Hello, Linnie. We excited? I saw Catherine yesterday, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, with Toby. So, do you have any questions before we get started?
My thing only goes up to L63.
Oh, so on the back of your remote?
But that, I don't think
Switch it?
mattered. Yeah. It's like it was on regular and it still went out.
So is it on regular right now?
It is.
Okay, and what's it say?
It's L63.
Oh, that's weird.
It was a pretty strong shot, but it only L63.
Yeah, because that's maxed out.
Yeah.
All right. So what L63 means is it's half the power. Okay. We'll see how she does today. The only issue would be is if you need full power, right? Because 63 is a lot, right? But we're thinking like thick fur in emergency situation is have you called Doctor and tell them like, hey, I have the 3500 model. My trainer, I spoke with my trainer, and he said that something's wrong with mine. It should not do that.
Yeah.
L is for when you're on mild because it cuts the power in half. Regular should be 127.
Yeah.
That's what that should be like, okay? But no big deal. It just means you have half the power at the moment. We're perfectly fine. We'll give them a call and then see what they say. If they ask you to send it in to be repaired, what I'll have you do is just keep using it for the week. And then next week when I see you, or the next time I see you, I'll bring a loaner for you. You'll use that one so you can send that one because then you're going to be without a remote. Okay? So yeah, it happens. It's electrical, so it happens from time to time. But I think we'll be okay. Other questions? All right. So, how are you feeling?
A little bit nervous.
Okay. So what we're going to do today is find her number. Did you get to watch the videos?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So we're going to find Linnie's working number. That number may change according to connection, according to what's going on in the environment, there's dogs and all that stuff. And then once we get that working number, we're going to begin the training. Okay. Very important that before you start your process of training, that you do find this working number. Okay. So connection simply means twitch, but that's it. Like, so she could be staring and you see the twitch, but she's completely unfazed, right? And the perception level is you get a little bit more kind of like she's looking around, like the dog gets like, okay, there's something more there. Working level is what's going to get the dog to perform how we need them to within that context, okay? So as you get used to it, it becomes kind of like second nature, and you'll learn what to look for, okay? Questions? What's your number right now? So we'll go ahead and we'll start there at 06. And I want you to think when you're using that, well, I guess it really doesn't matter because it's cut in half, so we'll forget about that. The button you're going to want to use is the bumpy one, okay? So I'm going to have you look at Linnie, and when you hear me say tap, you're going to press that bumpy button, okay? Tap, tap, tap. Okay, so you see how there's no response? Let's go ahead and go to tap. Tap, tap, tap. And it's on, correct? Like her collar is on?
I think so.
So grab her box and then hit that button on the front, the pager. Yeah. So I heard that, right? So that's a vibrate. Is she okay with people?
Yeah.
Okay, that's loose. So what we're gonna do here is I'll tighten it up for you. Let's do that. We'll tighten it down. All right, go ahead and go down to 6. And tap, tap, tap. 10. Tap, tap, tap. 14. And if you land on like 15 or 16, it's okay. Just general range. Tap, tap, tap. Maybe something there. 18. Tap, tap, tap. 22. Tap, tap, tap. 26. 30. Tap. 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 34. Tap. 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 38. Tap. 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 42. Tap. 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 You got 42. 48. Tap. 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 54. Tap. 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 Oh, okay. Tap. Tap. Yeah. Okay, so now we've got connection. You have 54? 58? Tap. There we go. See how it's a little bit of a bigger reaction, okay? So we're at 58 out of 67. So that's not out the ordinary. It's not because she's stubborn. It's we got the thick coat. We have connection and stuff like that. So we're gonna start at 58. As we work with her, that number may dip, either because we get good connection or because she's starting to focus and perceive that a bit more. Okay. If we get a yip, don't be discouraged. We're just gonna drop it down. That means we got good connection. Okay. Because if we sit here and try to fiddle around and keep rotating the collar to adjust, we'll spend most of the time trying to adjust the collar than we will on the training. Okay? Questions so far? So what we're going to do today is we got her working number, is we're going to work on the leash walking command of heel. Okay? This is going to be our foundation for your reactivity stuff. So the theory is if she's more focused and worried about you and walking with you, we shouldn't see reactivity. If we do see reactivity, no big deal. It means the first approach didn't work. Now we're going to try it a different way. Okay? But this is what teaches her how this turns on, how it turns off. I want the dog to perceive it more so as a communicator as opposed to a punisher. So here, the way this exercise is going to look is I train dogs on the left. Okay? So if we're walking with Linnie and she gets ahead of you, what you're going to do is make an immediate 180 turn to your right. Okay? So you turn, and as you're turning, you're going to be tapping at the same time, and Linnie should come towards you this way. She'll most likely catch up and then pass up, tap, 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 turn back, boom. She gets ahead of you, turn around, tap, 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 boom. Okay, we're going to just go back and forth. So you might get a little dizzy, might look a little crazy for a bit, but you'll be okay. And I'm going to coach you through all of this. The main thing I want you to think is, when I say turn, it means 180 to the right always. Okay, unless I specify otherwise. So you're always going to be making that 180 turn to your right side. And when you hear me say tap, that means press the button. So if I say tap, 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 that would be your rhythm. If I said tap, 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 that would then be your rhythm. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to give Linnie a bit of slack here, because you want her. That is good right there. Take up a little bit. Right there, that's good. The reason for giving her slack is because we want her to have the ability to make the mistake of getting ahead of you. Okay? So most people, when they try to teach the heel, they'll restrain the dog and hold them next to them and say heel, and like as they walk heel, thinking the dog's going to connect those dots, and they don't. What we want here is that she gets ahead of you, she feels that pressure, she goes, I don't like this, and turns around and goes, oh, mom's going that way. She catches up and then it disappears. Does that make sense? Okay. And as we work through it, it'll just kind of clear things out. Let me have you go and just move forward here. Yep. Good. You're going to go ahead and just relax, and you're going to go ahead and start walking forward. Go ahead and turn, tap, tap, forward, and relax. Relax your arm. Good. Turn to your right. Tap, forward. Good. Turn to your right. Tap, forward. Good. Move forward. To your right. Tap, 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 forward. Good. Go ahead and turn. Tap, tap. There she goes. Good. Turn. Tap. Tap. Good. Turn. Tap. Turn. Tap. Forward tap. Good. Forward. Now slow walk here. Slow turn. Forward tap. 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 Good girl. There you go. Good. Turn again. Tap. Tap. Good girl. Turn. Tap. Tap. Good. Now slow walk. Slower. Stop right there. Good. Can you see a difference right there? What did you see? Right. So what happened was you were walking fast, and then you slowed down, and she was a little bit ahead of you because she's still not 100% yet. But she did notice you changed pace, and she slowed down and moved towards you because she knew she had to do something like that. Okay. So she's like 40, 50% right now. Okay. So can you see the process of where you're turning and you're just tapping and it's getting your attention, right? So now what we're struggling with is finding that number that's going to make her turn and catch up to you, but not pass you up. Okay, we're at 58, right?
Yeah.
We're going to try a few more at 58, and then we may end up tweaking a little bit. Okay, 1 second. Good. I'll go ahead and give slack a little bit, and instead of moving forward, just turn to your right and go that way. Turn, tap, forward. Now if this happens, keep forward, pull to your left and tap. Tap, there you go, and relax. Good, like that. Turn, tap. Good, tap. Going to walk slow. Good, keep forward. You're fine. Good. Keep forward, tap. Good, put a slow turn. Stop. Good, better. Okay, now you're like at 50, 60%. Okay, so on that turn, when you slow down and you do the slow turn, she was able to turn with you, and you essentially abruptly stopped. Okay, now she didn't stop perfectly, but she did stop with you, and if you notice, she's angled out to the right. Do you know why that is? Because you keep making right turns. Right? So now she's thinking, Mom might make a right turn, so if I'm positioned like this, I'm going to catch it right away, and I'll avoid the tap. Okay? So most people, when it comes to the remote, dogs have their worst. They're already lunging and barking. Right? And if you do it that way, it'll be a forever problem. What we're trying to do here is get in Linnie's head to teach her there's someone at the end of the leash that she needs to pay attention to, and essentially kind of respect the fact that she's walking. So she's going to be so caught up in that I should pay attention to Mom mode, and it doesn't mean she's going to be staring at you. It just means mentally she's paying attention, so that when she sees a dog or she sees something that she'll typically trigger for, she's thinking, well, I really want to bark at that, but I know if I leave Mom's side, this thing goes off, and I don't like it, so I'm going to choose to do this and hope nothing bad happens here, right? Then you walk past it, nothing bad happens, she doesn't get remoted because she wasn't reactive. She goes, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. As long as I do this, everything's okay. Okay? Questions so far? Let's go from 58, let's go to 60. And give a little slack. And that's perfect. And forward. Go ahead and hug to the right a little bit. Forward. Tap. Tap. Forward. Tap. Forward. You got it. Good. One slow turn. Forward. Good. Yep. Good. Now slow walk here. Good. Slower. Right turn. Tap forward. Good. Turn. Slow walk. Right turn. Tap. Tap forward. Tap forward. Forward. Good. Better. Slow turn. Yep. Good. Tap forward. Good. Tap forward. Tap. There we go. Good. Good. Slow turn. Forward. Now pull your left tap. Slower and stop. Good. Okay, I'm not going to care about this right now. Okay, but that's the anticipation. You guys are fine.
Oh, okay.
That's the anticipation. So, that little jump of 2 from 58 to 60, I already start to notice a bit of a difference with you. So, you want to get as you practice, you're going to get used to just the subtleties of just jumping a few digits to fix little problems like pain and focus and all that stuff. Okay, so you're out on 60 out of 67. Okay, which fractionally is a lot of the power. Logically, you would say like, man, I would think the dog would be rolling all over the place. Okay, not the case. Dogs bite each other, so they have a higher level for discomfort, tolerance for discomfort. Okay, so yes, to a human, 60, I'll tell you right now, would be very uncomfortable, right? But we don't have as high of a pain tolerance as dogs do. So that's a big factor why, aside from the fact that she has a very thin coat. Okay? So when you're working with her, I don't want you to think like, holy crap, like I'm really high up. Is this correct? Because she's telling you what's too much and what's too little. If she would have been jumping and rolling and stuff, I would say, yes, we're definitely too high. We need to dip it down and dip it down considerably, right? So the reason for finding that appropriate number is we're trying to make these turns more and more infrequent, okay? So if we were to be like at 20, let's say she felt 20, and you go for a walk 3 times a day, and every single walk you have to turn 100 times, and it doesn't get better, it tells you 20 is not working, right? So then you just start to play with your number, you start to bump it until you find where you're like, hey, ever since I jumped into 45, I've only had to turn once every few days. So there's a bigger gap there. And eventually once every few days becomes once every couple of weeks, becomes once every couple of months. Okay, so that's how you know you're at the right number. Questions so far? How you feeling? You feeling better? Yeah. Most people's impression when for the first class is like, oh my God, this is gonna be terrible, But that's why we start low and we work our way up. Okay? If we would have just came in at 60, possibly bigger reaction because we didn't kind of ease her into it. And it caught her off guard, and that's what said it was uncomfortable, just caught her off guard. But anytime you're going to practice with Linnie, I'll just say Winnie for a second. Anytime you're going to practice with Linnie, what I want you to get used to doing is come out, give her a quick potty break first. Let her pee and poop, whatever you think she needs to do, and then find your working number. Okay, take your time, there's no rush, and then you start your walk. Because if you come out on 20, or even just 60, and you assume that you have the connection, well, one, if you don't, now you're wasting time going back and forth and you don't even know if you have connection. Or 2, you come off at 60, and maybe you have good connection, that 30 would have been enough. So then she gives you a bigger response, okay? So every day or every time you're going to do this, let's say over the course of days, you find out every time you prep, you go to 45. That's what you end up, 10, 15, 20, 10, right? You end up at 45. Then after a few days, it's safe to assume 45, right? And then I'll come out of the door already set at that number. Does that make sense? So you're kind of doing like little science experiments, trying to make sure like, is this the correct number? Is this, good connection and all that stuff? And then you start coming out at that number. Now, her behavior number may be different from her obedience number. Right now we're at 60 out of 67, simply for right. So if Linnie became reactive, I would assume 60 may not be enough, because this is a calm setting. Does that make sense? So if she's escalated, you would think, I'm probably gonna need a little bit more power, that if you're already all the way up there, her number may be even higher than that, okay? I do tend to jump from the obedience number. So if she did become reactive and I was at 60, I would try to address it at that number, okay? Now, of course, yours is limited right now to 67. So if you find that that happens and then you cap it at 67 and it does not phase over the reactivity, then of course, we'll give you the loaner. You'll use that during the week as your collar gets fixed if it needs to be fixed. And then once you get it back, you pick up where you need. Now you're gonna have much more range, okay? So that's why with her, temperament-wise, from what I can see, doesn't need the power, but the coat and the behavior, I was accounting for that, okay? Questions. So we're gonna do a little bit more. Because Linnie has rested a bit, we're gonna go from 60 down to 45, okay? The reason for this is, every time you do a session and you stop, Linnie is processing everything that just happened, okay? So now her brain is starting to possibly associate or gain the concept of this thing that's on my neck and is contracting is actually conveying something to me. And it's telling me that mom's going the opposite way. So as you do more of this, it's possible that your number is going to start to dip as she gets more tuned in to what's going on here, okay? Or it may stay static, or in some cases it also goes higher. It just depends on the dog, okay? But more often than not, the number becomes lower once the dog becomes more aware of the e-collar, okay? So I'm going to have you repeat the same exercise. We're going to be at 45, and we're going to see if 45 will get us the same response that 60 got us earlier, okay? Go ahead and give a little bit of slack. One unwrap, that's good right there. And forward this way. Tap forward. Tap forward. Good. Tap forward. Tap, 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 tap. Good. Turn. Turn. Forward tap. Good. Now slow walk. Right. Go ahead and pivot to your right. Tap forward. Tap. Tap forward. Tap. Tap forward. Forward. Tap. Good. Turn again. Slow walk. Right. Slower. And stop. Good. That's okay for now. So this laying down. Does she do that a lot, or is that the first time you've seen it? Okay. When does she usually like looking at something? Okay. So we're gonna undo that behavior simply when we're in this exercise. So the heel command, once we put a word to it, which will be next week, means walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. Okay, it's a very specific looking command. Let's say she's stopping and laying down so that she can say hi to someone. Logically, you know she's just being cute and sweet, right? And you would think, like, Jesse, why would I want to stop that? I go, it's not that I want to stop it, it's just in that moment, she's working, and she's not allowed to do that. So it's like, if you're at work, you just can't go off and start watching a movie at work, right? You're working. So for Linnie, it's the same concept. If you gave that exception, she doesn't think, oh, mom knows that I just want to say hi, so she's giving me this opportunity. She just thinks, mom wanted me to do one thing, I decided to do another, there was no consequence for it, so if I can do that, then why can't I become reactive, right? So if she can do the little things, then she can do the bigger things, is how you want to look at it, okay? When she does it with the dog, is it to greet them and say hi, or is it usually a precursor to like reactivity? Okay.
How many?
Reactive. Okay, so there's like kind of variable of maybe she does, maybe she doesn't, right? So there's no real way to distinguish which one you're gonna get unless you recognize like certain triggers. So like let's say it's like every time she lays down to say to a German Shepherd, she always becomes reactive. Then it's safe to assume when a German Shepherd's coming, she does that, she'll be reactive, right? So if we don't have that kind of concrete visual or understanding of what's it gonna be, I just eliminate it. Okay. Now, if she's on her own time and she's free and she's not under command, I don't care because she's on her own time. Unless you feel like it's going to turn into reactivity, then we want to address it. Okay. And this is as we progress and you start to address her behavior and stuff, it's going to become more clear. Okay. When you're moving and she stops, you want to keep her momentum. Most people tend to halt, right? Because they're like they're walking the dog puts tension. They're like, oh, what are you doing, dog? Oh, they're stiff in the ground. Okay. And they go with the dog. And you're training them to lead the walk, essentially. So when we're putting her under this command, I want you to think that she's working. She's clocked in. So her job is to maintain that position at your side and to walk with you. Okay? She's not allowed to sniff. She's not allowed to pee. She's not allowed to breed dogs or anything like that. Her job is to be here. Now, let's say she stops to pee. I will keep walking and correct, but then I'll only walk a little bit, like, a few steps. Then I'll stop and say break to allow her to have her restroom break. Okay? So I'm not a jerk and I'm not going to walk for 10 more blocks. The dog's got to go, but I'm putting it on at least on my terms. Okay? So she doesn't think that I can stop whenever I want to do whatever. Because again, the little things lead to the bigger things. Okay? So you're not being mean. She's not going to think, oh man, mom didn't let me use the bathroom, I have to use the bathroom or anything like that. She's going to go, okay, I guess I'm not allowed to do that. Okay? And all it requires you to do is keep your movement and promote until she pops up and goes and follows you. Okay? Questions so far? Right. So like let's say you're gonna go out for a quick potty break, right? Like quick 5 minutes, I don't care. Right? However, do be prepared to deal with reactivity should that context come up if you don't have your equipment. Okay? So, because it's happened to people, they'll say, Jesse, I ran the dog out in front real quick for a quick potty break and there was a parade of dogs. It's just hell because the dog was so reactive. I'm like, yeah, well, that's kind of a gamble, right? So, if it's, I don't want to have to deal with reactivity, then I just call the dog up anyways. I just don't use the heel because we're just going out the potty. But if the dog became reactive, I have the means of stopping it. Does that make sense? In terms of when do you apply this heel, in my book, it's 80% work, 20% play. So if you're going to go for a long walk with Linnie, maybe an hour, 45 minutes would be structure, 15 minutes would be free time. Okay, and you break it up how you want. You can do 5 minutes in the beginning, structure, 5 minutes in the middle, structure, 5 minutes in the end. You can do structure, 15-minute break in the middle, end with structure, right? You can break it up however you want. It's really the equation of 80% work to 20% play. The reason for this is your dog becomes what you allow them to practice. So if it's a lot of freedom and do whatever you want, your dog becomes a party animal, do whatever I want, party all the time, right? Which then leads to behaviors that we're not wanting. Yep, we're short. Watch here. Mouth closed, lip. Okay, a little bit of tension and mouth panting. Okay. So if she's doing really well, and maybe it's a nice Sunday afternoon, and you're like, I just want to go on a leisurely stroll with Linnie, and I don't want to have her under command, I'm perfectly fine with it. Okay. If she's without collar and the context arises and she becomes reactive, that's what it is. Or you have the collar on her, you're being, it's just a nice relaxed walk. I'm not worried about heel, but if she becomes reactive, I can still stop it. Okay. But ideally, more structure than rather than more freedom. Okay. Right now when that dog passed, I saw you prep, you got him shortened your leash and stuff. And then Linnie did a couple of things that I pointed out. She closed her mouth and she licked her lips. Do you know what that means? I've read that somewhere. In my experience, there's stress signals. So what happened right there, it was this dog walking past me stresses me out, right? And that's what she's communicating. This is stressing me out, right? But as soon as it passed, she started panting. That's her venting the stress. Okay, so the lip licking or closing the mouth isn't a bad thing. It's a signal. Okay, so now I want you to start keeping an eye on that. So like, let's say you see a dog coming and you're like, I wonder how Linnie's gonna react to this. What I would have you do is step aside, and I'll go into more detail where you're here with Linnie, and you're watching her. Okay, so now I'm watching Linnie. I see the dog coming from my peripheral range, and as they're approaching, you might see her close her mouth, and then once they pass, she'll open it and lick her lips, and then she's done. Right? Fine. So you just learned a dog walking 6 feet of us stresses Linnie out. No big deal. But then as you keep doing this, you might find that after so many reps of this, it doesn't stress her out anymore. She's learned, oh, I don't need to be reactive. There's nothing that's going to happen here. So that's her progressing. Okay. If the lip licking or the closed mouth becomes reactivity, then I go, okay, I may have to address it preemptively so that we don't get the blow up. Okay. So the e-collar is an aversive. Aversives are meant to stop things. So like if I didn't do my homework, I got spanked. If I talk back to my mom, I got spanked. If I didn't clean my room, I got spanked, right? So that negative acted as a motivator to prevent me or to motivate me to clean my room, do my homework, and not talk back to my mom, right? So same thing here for Linnie. We're theoretically wanting the heel and the discipline behind the heel, all that remoting that you did is really what settled her down to not progress to reactivity, okay? However, if that happens, we can also use the e-collar to stop it. Okay, because now you're putting consequence for the behavior itself. For this week, I'll have you step aside. If you see her become reactive, you can try a couple of taps. If it doesn't do anything, just stop, hold her, let it ride, look at your number, and then when I see you again, you'll let me know. Okay? Because then it's math. If you had a full 127 and you told me, Jesse, she became reactive and I went to 60, I would say, okay, well, we've learned that up to 60 doesn't work. We still have 61 to 127, right? But this week you only have up to 67 and we're already at 60, 45-ish, right? So it's leaving you a very small window to be able to have communication with them to stop the behavior, okay? So it's nothing good or bad, it is what it is. We'll just have to figure out what's gonna work for those particular situations, okay? Questions? Is this making sense? Okay. So I'm gonna have you do another little run back and forth here with Linnie. I'm not gonna say when you should turn. Excuse me. I want you to try to pick out when you need to. Okay. For your visual, when you're walking with Linnie, her right shoulder should be parallel to your left leg. So it's as if you're walking with another person. Okay. So if that right shoulder of hers starts to pass you, even an inch, you want to go into that 180 turn and start remoting and go the opposite way. What I'm also going to have you do is move a bit more quickly or assertively. Okay. So if you're doing a correctional turn, it should be boom, tap, 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 tap. Good. And now we're going. Okay. If it's too slow, you're not giving her enough space to have to close the gap that she may not get the concept very quickly, okay? So you're moving with meaning, with purpose, so that when she turns around, she goes, oh, mom's going that way. Boom, I got to catch up, okay? And I'll have you start off with just that right turn like that. Relax that arm. Good. Good. Give a little slack. Just one. There you go. That's perfect. Good. Keep forward. Keep forward to the left tap. Good. You got it. Nice. Good turn. Good job. Now go to slow here. Keep forward. Yeah, relax that left arm. Good. slack, and forward tap. There you go. Good. Relax. Good. That's much better. Yep. Tap. Forward. You got it. Good job. Good. Slow again. Slower. And stop. Much better. Okay, you see that difference there? Now I could see we had more connection. I saw stronger contraction. Okay, but she wasn't overreacting to it. So I think the 45 just kicked in, but it's appropriate. Okay, your movement was much better. Okay, now it's really just being direct. At any point when you feel uncertain about what you should be doing, just think to yourself, "You're supposed to be here." Right? So like when she went off to the side, I saw you delay a little, and then you relinquish some pressure. I would have kept going and remoted to make her come here. Okay. So now the next thing we're going to work on is coming to the stop. What did I just have you do? Slow down. Okay, I said slow, slower, stop. Okay. You drive, correct? Occasionally, but you know how to drive. Okay. What do you do before you stop? Slow down, right? You pump the brakes, and what do you do before you turn? Typically slow down, right? You're going slow already, but if you're fine. Okay. If you're going fast, if you just turn, sorry, you're gonna flip your car, right? So I want you to think of this as kind of like driving, right? So for Linnie, you know when you're gonna stop, you know when you're gonna turn, right? She does not. So we need to convey to her, or communicate what it is that you're doing, so that she's able to move, okay? So coming to that stop, if you would have just abruptly stopped, she would have kept going, right? Now that, yes, technically you would correct it, but that would technically be unfair because she didn't know. So when you come to that stop, you're really going to exaggerate, or that turn, okay? So if you're walking at a fairly brisk pace, you would slow down pretty drastically for a few steps before stopping, okay? If she's paying attention, what should Linnie do?
Slow down.
Correct. If she's not paying attention, what is she going to do? She's going to keep going, and then what would you do in response? Not tap and almost. What have you been doing when she passes you? And turning.
Sorry.
There you go. Right. I know it's like a quiz over here. So you would tap and turn. Okay. So what you said in the beginning of I would tap and pull her back is a very common response. Okay. That's our first instinct. It's just to always pull. But that doesn't help your training. You're actually going to end up untraining Linnie. And next thing you know, she's going to be pulling and being reactive. Okay? The tap and turn is super important because it's telling her wrong way, up this way. Okay? So, let's say you're going to come to a stoplight. You slow down, but Linnie keeps going. Very common for people to think, well, it's a stoplight. Like, it's fine. Like the dog pulls. I go, no, because the dog's just stopping. That's telling you that they're not paying attention. If they're not paying attention, I'm going to get reactivity again. So even though you're coming to a stop sign, if she goes ahead of you, you would turn, tap to correct her, slow down, turn again, because you have to go this way, and then slow to that stop. There she is, good girl. Then you continue your walk when it turns green. Okay? So Linnie's job is to pay attention to you, but it's your job to ensure that Linnie is paying attention by using the remote. Okay? Don't feel bad. Don't feel like, oh my God, am I using this too much? I'm very generous with my remoting. Okay, when I'm training dogs, I'm remoting for everything. But that's why, for me, I'm able to remove the use of it very quickly because the dog's just like, crap. If I don't want to get remoted, I should just do it. Okay, and that's what we're trying to create here. Okay, it's not going to make her hate you. It's not going to make her dislike you. It's not going to psychologically screw her up or anything like that. It's very clear, concise communication to her, telling her these are the expectations. Okay. Question is, so we're going to do another just back and forth. And then just remember, when you're going to come to that turn, since you're moving more quickly, do slow down, slow turn. Linnie's with you, we're perfect. Pick up your pace again. Then at some point come to a stop, but remember to slow down. She stops with you, good. And then you're going to move again. And you'll repeat that a few times. Okay, questions? Go for it. Yep, forward. And a girl. Forward test, you got it, good job. Now relax that left arm. Yeah, there you go, good. Keep forward, yep, you got it. You got it. High retraining.
Your dog walk.
Good, relax your arm. Good turn. Correct, good job. Forward, tap, tap. Good. You got it. You got a bike from behind you, just so you know. You're fine. Forward, tap. You got it. Good job. There you go. Relax that arm. Good. Just keep it forward. Good. Keep it forward. Good. Good. Keep forward, tap, keep forward. Right turn. You got it. Good. Relax. Good. Good job. Keep forward. You got it. Good. Relax the arm. I'm going to stop when you're ready. Good. I saw a couple of trouble spots. Her pulling to the side, right? You know why that is? She's stressed, okay? This is very common. It's okay. You have to work it through. So what happens is she's going, this walk sucks. I don't like the remote, okay? And if you give in and you give her that outlet of laying down or pulling to the side and stopping, you reinforce that behavior, okay? So then you just kept your momentum, you kept moving forward, and you tap. And what you're doing is you're saying that is not an option. Your option is to move with me, okay? But as long as she's moving with you, nothing happens. So you're teaching her to unlearn certain responses, and this is actually what builds confidence. Because her brain is telling her, you can't do this. And you're telling her, yes, you can. And then she gets through it, and she goes, oh, that wasn't so bad, okay? So it's similar to like a personal trainer. Back when a few years ago, I was working with a personal trainer, and I would get tired, and he's like, 4 more. And I was like, I can't do 4 more, I'm tired. He's like, you're going to do 4 more, right? And he'd make me do so. And I would feel good, because I was like, I didn't think I could do it. Same thing for the dog. She's thinking she can't do it for whatever reason. And you're saying, yes, you can. Unfortunately, we don't have, like, you can do it, Linnie, right? We can't use that motivation. We're using pressure. So we're using the very thing that she's trying to seek comfort from to motivate her to keep pushing forward, okay? And then she builds confidence off of that. And for a lot of people, it sounds like kind of like illogical or doesn't like or counterintuitive. But I've been doing this for years, okay? And it's more so giving up when the dog looks too stressed that creates more issues than working through it. Okay? So there was that part. There was a couple times where she was forging and you're going to be pulling back and tapping as opposed to the turn and tap. Okay? So I bring that up because I want to make you aware of that. Because inevitably, a lot of people start to fall back on old habits. And the next thing you know, I see you in a week and I'm like, how'd it go? You're like, Jesse, it's terrible. It's like it's not working. And I'm like, show me what's going on. And the next time I see the owner doing this, right? So now that you are aware of it, if you find yourself going back, I want you to think, Luke just said not to do that. And instead do your turn and tap. Okay? Put down this. I think that was it. Your speed was good. I saw you slowing down. There was some trouble spots, but it was more so because of her stress levels. When it comes to the walk, actually, let's say you walk 10 minutes away from home, and then you're gonna walk back home. You might find Linnie really forging to go back home, right? Because she's like, kind of like this, I'm tired of this game, right? You wanna work her through that. If you're tight on time, and it's, I don't have time to work with Linnie on this, you would simply stop. Break, and let her pull you home. Okay, because break means the job is done. However, if you have the time to spend on that, I suggest that you do. So I spend 10 minutes going one way, and I go, I know it's going to be a chore coming back this way. Is that to give myself more time to come back home, to give me time to correct. Okay, so it's the same thing your attention pulls ahead of you. You're tapping and when doing the turn, and you'd of course turn again because you have to go back home. And then it's really finding the number of what's going to override her stress levels. So you're telling her, yes, Linnie, I know you're stressed and I know you want to rush home, but it's still expected that you behave yourself and that you be right here, like I taught you. Okay, and it all comes down to the number. Once you find the right number, now she's got to think, well, what's more stressful? Me forging and mom having to go to 65, or me just sticking to mom and dealing with the emotional stress of the pressure, but nothing physical is happening. Okay, so you're trying to get her to do the math, and that's how we do. So we increase the level or the power until the dog goes, all right, it's not worth forging. I'm gonna just stick to my mom like it's supposed to. Okay, and then you'll see each time you do this, it's gonna get progressively easier. Which will make your training even better. If we avoid that context, you're going to struggle with a lot of whenever she becomes stressed out, her wanting to escape from the situation. The other part of this is if she's stressed or panicked or whatever, and you're making her obey, we want to put this in a realistic situation of if something spooks her and she's running because she's scared of what just happened. At that moment, if all you have is your remote, you're going to have to go a lot higher to override what's going on. So you essentially have to make her more afraid of running away from you than she is of running away from the firework. Okay? And this is part of that process. So by you getting Linnie to override her discomfort or her stress levels, you're making your obedience more reliable in the context of when you may need it, if you need it. Okay? So there's like a bigger picture to this. People tend to go by, Jesse, a random firework at the park when my dog is off leash, it's like a 1 in a million thing. I'm like, yeah, but when it happens, it's really gonna suck. You can't get your dog back, right? So you're preparing yourself and preparing Linnie for that moment because it's not just Linnie, it's you. Now if you're having to go up on that collar, it's gonna be emotionally stressful. Maybe Linnie is yelping because you're at 100 or 105, right? But you need to make her come back. Otherwise, she ends up in the street. Otherwise, she ends up being lost, and so on and so forth. Okay, so all this stuff is actually indirectly prepping her because you're making her override her own stress responses. Okay, does this make sense? Excellent. So your homework for the week is going to be very simple. Just this. Okay. What is your routine like with Linnie? Okay. Okay, so let's say you're walking to work. If that seems like a chore, I'd either give myself more time to get there, or especially if it's a positive for her, like, hey, we're going to work, right? Then it's gonna be tougher, right? If that's the case, then I would either just ignore and just walk there, not even initiate anything with this. Same thing for the dog park. Now, if you heading to the dog park, you have more time to play with. Let's say you have an hour in total, and it takes me 30 minutes just walking to get to the dog park, but then it's 30 minutes back home. Then we just don't go to the dog park, right? We walk there, but because it took so long, you don't get to go in there. She's not gonna feel bad about it, okay? But what you're doing is, since you made her adhere to the positioning, is you've done work. So then the next day, maybe it only takes you 25 minutes, so then she's able to spend 5 minutes at the park and then 30 minutes walking home. Then the next day it's 20 minutes, so then she spends 10 minutes at the park. You see that? And eventually I can just walk to the dog park, and Linnie doesn't forge or pull, so now she gets more time at the dog park because she was adhering to the command, okay? If you find it difficult to go to any one of these places, then you'd want to set up time outside of that to work on this, and then start applying it to those moments. Okay, because definitely if you try it off in the beginning, it may be a bit of work. Then obviously you have to go to work, you don't want to be late and all that stuff. So then we work backwards. We work outside of that. We ignore that context until we're ready, and then we start applying it once we feel like we got a good hold on it. Okay. The release that we use for dogs, like let's say you want to give her a potty break, is the word break. So I would walk up to the area, slow down and stop. Linnie should be stopped with you. Wait a moment. Break, and then we bring her to the grass, or into the dog park, or into the office. Okay, break means you're free now. Okay, at that moment, we don't have to worry about pulling or anything like that. Also, like I said, if you need to get somewhere and you're running out of time, simply stop, wait, break, and then let her do what you normally do. Okay. Next week we will apply the word heel, but right now we're not using it. The tap or the sensation is essentially what communicates to Linnie, now you have to be in position, okay? And that is it. Okay. Questions?
Will there be like a follow-up email? I was just looking at expectations.
Oh, for like, yeah. So what we're gonna do, your homework is simply the walking stuff. Practice as much as you can. There's no such thing as too much when it comes to this, because leash walking or walking alleviates stress and it's not redundant. As long as she's walking great with you, you can just keep going forward, right? You're only turning and tapping when she is not, when she's ahead of you, okay? As you start to teach more behaviors, then you'll have little training sessions. But for the most part, the way I teach is once the dogs learn the concept, you simply apply it to life, because application is the best form of training. The next thing you know, you're able to walk with Linnie, and she's here, and you go wherever you need to go. And then when you want to give her freedom, she has freedom as well. Okay. So this week is super simple. The leash walking stuff. Let's keep an eye on the reactivity. If you see her become reactive, I want you to know why she became reactive, if you can. The dog was barking at her. We were caught off guard. We came around the corner. It was a dog she knew was a best friend. Because that gives me more info. And then if you come back, you're like, hey, Jesse, it was great. Like 60% decline in the reactivity. I'm like, awesome. The discipline and the leash walking exercise is doing what it's supposed to. And we just kind of build off of that, okay? The only time I send follow-up emails would be like if you're needing videos to prep you for the next class. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to shoot me an email. If you forgot something, if you're unsure about something or anything like that, the email I emailed you from is my work email. So feel free to ask any questions. And if you ever see anything that you're not sure about or not sure how to handle, you can always record it and then email it to me, and then I can see it and go like, oh, okay, like this is what went wrong. This is what I would do, or don't worry about it, we'll cover it in class. Okay? Anything else? All right, she did good. Go ahead and give Dog Show a call tomorrow if you can. They are in California, so they're 3 hours, I think, behind. So if you call like at 9 o'clock in the morning, they'll be closed. And just tell them, I have the Dogs 3500 series. My trainer told me it's not malfunctioning, but it has an error. It only has the low function or mild function, no matter what the setting is. Okay, and there might be a way to reset it on your end, or you may have to send it in. And if you have to send it in, just keep it, use it for the week, and then let me know, and we'll bring you a loaner so that you can send it in and not worry about not having a collar for the week. Okay? Awesome. So it's good to see you again. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, and before I forget, if you have nail polish, when you get home, for a marker, a painter marker, mark the notch where we put the, so that this way you use the consistent spot each time, okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.